Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing a book that I did not know I wanted to read until I saw on the library shelf, which is really how I get most of my books out of the library, and I think is a really great benefit for going to the library. Sometimes you don't know you're interested in something until you see it there and think, oh, I actually do want to read about that. So this book is about the Trans-Siberian Railway. So this was a railway or a rail journey that I did know about before, but not a whole lot. I had just heard of it. So when I saw this book, Border Crossings, A Journey on the Trans-Siberian Railway, on the news shelf by Emma Fick, I knew that I had to read it because I was interested in it. So the Trans-Siberian Railway, which I learned right away, my thought or my belief about it was that it was one railway that went across Russia, but apparently it's not just one railway, it is multiple railways. So it does mostly go across Russia, but there's a couple offshoots that go through this, through China and Mongolia. So the author of this book took the trip that starts in Beijing, but then goes through Mongolia and then up through Russia, and they did it that way. They started in China and wound up in Moscow instead of the other way. So I immediately learned that the railway isn't exactly what I thought it was. There's multiple ways that you can do it. I had always heard of this one, the one that goes from Moscow all the way to the far end of Russia. I did not know about any of these, but this is the trip that the author took. So this is a travel adventure travelogue book that is in the style of a little bit of text and a little bit of art. So as we go along, the author includes like illustrations and little bits of text instead of all text, and that is what the entire book is like. So we get her art style and we get her trip, and she puts it in the order that she does the trip in, and she includes the art. And she's going with her, I forget if it's her husband or her boyfriend, her partner of some sort, some form. They do the journey in chronological order, but they don't stay on the train the entire time. They get off at certain cities and they explore the cities and experience them for a couple days before getting back on. The first thing I want to know, which is not me complaining, I think it's super cool. I don't want to come across as like jealous or like cruel or something. I have no idea how she has so much time to travel. I only get a couple days off work every single year, and I'm like micromanaging how I can get the most like bang for my buck in terms of travel in my couple days that I get off work. And she was like, oh, we were traveling in Southeast Asia for a bit, and then we wound up in Beijing. We took this trip, and I was like, how do I get a job where I get that much time off work? I'm assuming it's because she's kind of independently employed, or she kind of can do this work on her own schedule. If she's writing a book on this, then obviously that kind of is work, but it's a little bit more flexible than having to like request days off. But yeah, that was the first thing I noticed, is that she clearly has a lot of time to travel, and I am a little jealous of her. I would like to have much more time than I do to travel. I feel like my travel itch is very strong, but my travel ability in terms of how much time I get off work is very, very small. So that's the first thing I noticed. She has a lot of opportunity to travel, and I think that you can tell that she has a lot of traveling experience when it comes to this railway. I enjoy this style of doing a travel adventure. I'm not opposed to the other way of doing like travelogues, where it's just a written book, like an actual text, like what you would think of as a traditional book where the author writes about her experiences. I think they can also be really well done. I don't think I like one better than the other. I think there's just pros and cons to each kind of book. I've read a couple other ones like this. So if you like this style where the adventure is kind of presented with lots of art, there's two other books that I've read and reviewed. One of them was, I think it was called Japan AI. It was about a woman who was a little taller than the average Japanese woman who had traveled to Japan to experience it, and she talked about her adventure. That was in the form of a graphic novel. And there was another one which I'm drawing a blank on, but I definitely like fully remember the book, and it was a woman who had received a grant to go to Japan, and it was like this, where she's kind of made little sketches and doodles with a little bit of explaining paragraphs about the trip and things that she experienced on the trip that I thought was really well done. I've also read more maybe traditional ones. There was one really, really well done one that I read during the pandemic, and that was called, I think it was Sovietistan, and it was about a woman who traveled through like Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan. I think she went to Tajikistan. So she went through those like former Soviet states and just experienced life there, which is really, really interesting. So I like both styles, but if you're pressed for time or you don't really like like to sit down with a heavy book, or you just don't have the attention span. Let's be honest, reading does take quite a bit of attention. So if your attention span with reading hasn't quite built up, or you don't have the time to build it up, this is a great way to experience someone's full journey in very bite-sized and accessible pieces with really great art, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I learned a lot from this book too, even though the text is very small, it doesn't have a lot of like, I don't want to say a lot of content, because there is a lot of content. Even though it doesn't look like there's a lot, you learn quite a bit as you go through this, and it seems very, very interesting. Yeah, so that's this book, Border Crossings. I'd probably give it a 4-star. I really, really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It's very accessible. It's not like a really dense, thick book. It's a fun little adventure. It might inspire you to take your own adventure. I'm not sure, but yeah, I enjoyed reading this book. I'm glad I pulled it off the new shelf to read, and I think that you might enjoy it too. So it's Border Crossings, A Journey on the Trans-Siberian Railway by Emma Fick. If anything I've said sounds interesting, check it out, give it a read. This would make a perfect book to purchase, to put on your shelf, just because I feel like it looks very, very nice, and it has a lot of great art that you'll want to return to. I will be returning this book to the library. Unfortunately, it is a library book, but I think it'd be a really great book to purchase if you want to include this on your shelf. Other than that, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.